Hi, you've probably come from my last video, but just in case you haven't, last year I created a 100 days of cross stitch challenge for myself, which was to create 100 tiny little cross stitch designs, and each design was in a 10 by 10 grid. So 100 stitches per design. And then I would share those on social media. Now, one thing that this challenge did for me, which was extremely unexpected, was that it grew my social media following. So I'm an elder millennial and my social media of choice is Instagram. And I was kind of hovering around that sort of 10 to 11,000 follower mark for ages, like for years and years, and I could never really grow it. And I know that's really not the point of anything. It doesn't really make much of a difference on sales. Like, sales were growing and it was great, but I was really starting to lean heavily into paid ads, and that's how I was getting a lot of new people into my business. And any small business owner knows that that's very stressful when you know that so many of your sales are coming from Meta, because then any change in the algorithm really has a direct impact on your sales. So not ideal. And we were also dealing with that slowdown after COVID. So follower count, it's not really a front of mind thing. It doesn't really matter, but it was frustrating because no matter what I did, I just couldn't get that number up. So then I started this challenge and it was like turning on a switch. So I think right now I'm sort of I've just crossed about 20,000 followers. So it took 1 year to almost double that following on Instagram. And the people that were coming in really had an interest in cross stitch. So they were really great customers to have. And I wasn't paying that extra percentage to basically buy the customers, which is what you do with paid advertising. So the profit margin is higher, which is always good. And the other great thing that it did was it gave me all this regular content that I was creating, and then I could use it. So I used it on Instagram, but then I started using it in my paid ads, and I started posting on TikTok. I would recycle them onto TikTok, and that grew that account. And then of course I was able to start my YouTube channel. So while I was figuring out how to create these longer form videos, I would just post all of my 100 days videos onto YouTube Shorts. I think they're called Shorts, aren't they? Yes. So I was using all this content that I already had to grow these other channels. So it was kind of like the gift that keeps on giving. And the irony now, of course, is I've got a lot more sales to handle that I'm packing. So it is a struggle to keep making these videos, but that's a whole other story. So all in all, it's something I'm very happy I started. And I very much encourage you to do something similar. If you've got any kind of product that you can create a challenge or a series out of. So without further ado, I will show you some videos now. I will show you videos 20 to 41. Okay, I'll see you next time.
Day 21 of 100 days of cross stitch. I've been so slack with these videos. I took the whole of last week off work, which was wonderful, except that I got sick. Why does that happen? Why does our body punish us for giving it rest, the very thing it's been crying out for? I've heard it happens to teachers a lot in school holidays as well. Can any teachers out there confirm or deny if this is the case? We might be entitled to compensation. Okay, today I wanted to use glow-in-the-dark thread. I have used this thread before because I have designed one of my cross stitch kits with a hidden glow-in-the-dark message. I'll dig it out to show you here since this stitching isn't very interesting right now. Here it is. It is a lovely welcome sign, and then in the darkness the message reads, "Please leave." I highly recommend stitching that kit up and showing it in your spare room, and then not warning your guests. There's some free entertainment for you. I have finished stitching my black canvas using black thread, and now I am stitching my design over the top of it using 2 strands of glow-in-the-dark thread. And here it is, finished. And this is me trying to get a video of it in the dark. It just wasn't showing up on my iPhone. On photo, yes, but on video, no, for some reason. So you're just going to have to feast your eyes on this fairly lame photo. So here we have a teeny tiny glow-in-the-dark cobweb. I promise it looks better in real life. Okay, bye. Day 22 of 100 days of cross stitch. This is what we've done so far. Alrighty, straight away today, I'm going to tell you that we're going to be stitching a duck. And shout out to Lisa, who has been very persistent with her requests over the last few videos. I'm here to grant your wish. I do feel like multiple reminders is basically the only way to get my attention these days, especially since I had kids. I don't know the science, but I'm pretty sure that every kid you have completely halves your short-term memory capacity. And there's only so many times you can halve something before you start to get into dangerous territory, like folding a piece of paper in half. Don't they say that it doesn't matter how big your piece of paper is? You can only fold it in half 7 times maximum. Anyway, I'm hoping my memory function increases over time, but it's been almost 7 years now, so I'm not holding out much hope. Okay, here we go, Lisa. This little duck is for you. Day 23 of 100 Days of Cross Stitch. Hello! Okay, so many of you know I have a business called Spruce Craft Co. that makes cross stitch kits, subscription boxes and patterns. Today I'm going to tell you the story of my second business. It's called Sew It All Australia and it sells cross stitch fabric and accessories. Now this was an established business. It had been around for about 20 years and it was actually my fabric supplier that Spruce used originally because I had tried all the fabric out there and I liked theirs best. So in 2021 the owners contacted me and said they were retiring and would I be interested in buying the business, which obviously that's a big yes. I mean, who doesn't want their own cross-stitch shop at their fingertips? Also, the price was pretty reasonable and the owners were really just interested in giving the business a second life and continuing what they had built. The owners even offered to travel down with all the stock and set it up in our office and train us. They were really nice and it all sounds pretty good, right? There are a couple of downsides. One, I live in Melbourne and in 2021, when I bought the business, Melbourne had 4 separate COVID lockdowns, all sprinkled throughout the year. And at that time, Sew It All was located in Port Macquarie in New South Wales. And getting over state lines was not an easy feat. Also, I was 7.5 months pregnant at the time, but because I have serious boundary issues and I don't know how to slow down, I said, yes, excellent, let's do it. And by some stroke of luck, we picked a non-lockdown week and Peter and Wayne drove down and got everything set up for us in our office in June. And it was really interesting seeing how another business was run, as I only had my original business to compare it with. So it was so established, the sales were steady right from the beginning and we had all the supplier info, so much of the hard work was already done for us, which that's part of what you pay for that knowledge, as well as for the stock. But it was also interesting to see what areas we could make more efficient right from the beginning. So for example, they were still handwriting the address on the envelopes. We were like, immediately no, that's the first thing we fixed. Now the labels print out in 4 seconds. There were just lots of little things like that, mainly tech and marketing because they really had the product down pat. So that was in June and I had my second son at the beginning of August. My sister managed everything while I had time away and it took a while for everything to sort of start running smoothly, but now it's great. Both businesses just run side by side. Since they're both cross-stitch businesses, there's a lot of crossover in terms of target audience and stock and staffing, stuff like that. So they work really well together. Anywho, here's a little look at the fabric racks. That's one of the things we changed as well. They had all their fabric stacked on shelves and we put it all on hangers and it's much easier to manage physically because fabric is heavy. While I've been rambling on, I've stitched a little rainbow design using way too many colours. Okay, bye! Day 24 of 100 Days of Cross Stitch. Today's design is in honour of the weather in Australia these last couple of nights. What is going on? The winds the other night were apparently the strength of a stage 2 cyclone and it was sunny about 30 minutes ago and now it's not, so who knows what's happening. Anyway, it's been loud. I'm not sure how much sleep we've all been getting. A couple of years ago, during a storm in our old house, I happened to be facing one of our big windows that looked out onto our street. And right at that moment that I was looking out the window, I saw the huge branch of the gum tree on our nature strip break off and land directly on top of our house, right in front of my eyes. But we had just had a timber fence put up and the middle of the branch landed directly on one of the fence posts, which is, the strongest part of the fence. So the post took the brunt force of this entire gigantic branch and only the leaves landed on the roof and the window. And there was no damage, except for like a couple of cracked roof tiles. And it took out the electricity for a few days. It wasn't even worth claiming on insurance. So that was a little bit of a lucky break. So that's my wild weather story. Condolences to everyone out there dealing with school closures and cancelled flights and broken fences and no power. But to go with this wild weather theme, I have stitched this tiny little umbrella. Okay, bye! Day 25 of 100 Days of Cross Stitch. So one of the things about being a cross stitch designer is I have probably designed thousands of patterns by now, from big ones to tiny little ones like the ones you're looking at right now. So because I've built up such a catalogue of designs, I can sometimes recycle them. Sometimes they just need a little tweak, maybe a change of colour, and they look like a whole new design. I'm basically using the same design as my little sunflower right here. I just removed a few of the petals and changed the colour palette and I can magically transform it into a daisy instead. Also, for everyone stitching along at home, I've just released all of these designs up until day 25, which is today. You can find that in your inbox. And if you want to sign up, just go to the link in my Instagram bio and it will send you to the right place. And it's free. Okay, here is the finished cross-stitch daisy. Day 24 of 100 Days of Cross Stitch. Today's design is in honour of the weather in Australia these last couple of nights. What is going on? The winds the other night were apparently the strength of a stage 2 cyclone and it was sunny about 30 minutes ago and now it's not, so who knows what's happening. Anyway, It's been loud. I'm not sure how much sleep we've all been getting. A couple of years ago, during a storm in our old house, I happened to be facing one of our big windows that looked out onto our street. And right at that moment that I was looking out the window, I saw the huge branch of the gum tree on our nature strip break off and land directly on top of our house, right in front of my eyes. But we had just had a timber fence put up, and the middle of the branch landed directly on one of the fence posts, which is, the strongest part of the fence. So the post took the brunt force of this entire gigantic branch, and only the leaves landed on the roof and the window. And there was no damage, except for like a couple of cracked roof tiles, and it took out the electricity for a few days. But it wasn't even worth claiming on insurance, so that was a little bit of a lucky break. So that's my wild weather story. Condolences to everyone out there dealing with school closures and cancelled flights and broken fences and no power. But to go with this wild weather theme, I have stitched this tiny little umbrella. Okay, bye! Day 27 of 100 Days of Cross Stitch. Today I'm going to do a little cross promotion and talk about a new design I'm launching. And although I would much prefer to cross stitch all day every day, we have a mortgage that needs paying and I need to flog my wares. Even though we paid the mortgage last month, it's insisting it gets paid every month, which is just needy in my opinion. So the new design is called Neon Circus. Here it is. You might notice that the picture is blurry, and that is because it is a stitch along. If you don't know what that is, it's when the final design is a mystery and a different section of the design is released every month over 6 months, and then everyone as a community can watch it unfold and we all stitch it together. Like social stitching, but we don't have to leave our respective houses. This is our 4th stitch along, and I think this is the best one so far, but I might be biased. Here I'm stitching with the colours of the Neon Circus. Here's the colour palette. This design will be on black fabric, so I stitched a little black at the top and bottom of the square, and then the design is made up of all the colours in between. I love these colours. They look so good. Yellow and green are fluorescent thread, and it's so bright and it looks really good on the black background. Okay, bye! Day 28 of 100 Days of Cross Stitch. Hello! Time for another design, and this one is for the Australian viewers. This is something you'll recognise, and I'm pretty sure it's something you remember from your childhood. In other Australian news, how crazy is it that they've found a suspect for the Easy Street murders? 50 years later. Holy smokes. Apparently the guy was living in Greece and they had to wait for him to leave the country before they could get him. If you haven't heard of the Easy Street murders, they happened in Collingwood in Melbourne in the 70s. You can give it a bit of a Google if you want. I'm sure there's a podcast series on it. Although, you know what? Maybe don't look it up. Maybe we need less true crime. It surely can't be good for our brains. I just finished listening to a podcast about the Golden State Killer in the US, and that was gruesome. And actually, with that one, they found the killer later in life as well. You can only listen to podcasts where there is a finish, like an ending to the story. I don't want to hear about all the unsolved murderers still on the loose crimes. I don't need that pressure in my life. Anyway, here we are. I have stitched a tiny little Bubble-O Bill, which the Australians will know as the ice cream cowboy with the bubblegum nose. Here he is in the flesh. Let's keep our judgments to ourselves. He's clearly had a bit of a rough life. Day 29 of 100 Days of Cross Stitch. Okay, I've been a little MIA on social media lately, and that is because Beck, who is our head of customer service / order fulfillment / jack of all trades, has been on leave for almost 4 weeks now. I mean, I think it's been 4 weeks. Feels like it's been 3 days, but also 3 months at the same time. So I've been doing her work as well as some of my work, and let me tell you, that woman does a lot. You want to see how I'm managing here on my own? This is the current state of the office, and actually at this point, I consider this to be clean and tidy and organised. You know, we have lots of orders going out, which is a good problem to have. Also can't complain because it's not like Becky's on a luxury European holiday. She's recovering from a pretty nasty surgery, and we want her fully healed and rested before she comes back. So let's send her some positive vibes, shall we? But also, Beck, all future leave is now permanently cancelled. Just kidding. Or am I? Oh, and I stitched a frog. I almost forgot to talk about the actual stitching. I'm very tired. Day 30 of 100 Days of Cross Stitch. Today we're going to talk about white cotton. How much is there to say about white cotton? Let's find out, shall we? So, these are the 3 white cotton colours available from DMC. And in traditional DMC fashion, their colour codes are completely random and make no sense. We have 3865, B5 200 and Blanc. Honestly, I don't even know. It's baffling. And you might not notice much of a difference between these whites on their own, but when you put them together, you'll see how they differ. I'm stitching with the B5 200. Oh, that colour is such a mouthful. Anyway, we're doing that one first, and this is the starkest white. It has cool or blue undertones to it. So it's really good for stitching a cool blue vibes, so like snow or clouds in the sky. Second one I'm stitching with is Blanc, and this is supposedly the most neutral white in the range. It has a slightly warmer than the last one. If I'm ever not sure sure what white to use, Blanc is always my first choice. You really can't go wrong with this colour. Finally, stitching with 3865. This is much warmer than the other colours. It's also called winter white, and this is a nice pale colour to use when you have a design with a lot of shading, or if you want to stitch white on white, which is white cotton on white fabric, and you don't want the stitches to completely disappear. This is kind of like an antique white. There you can see them all together. You can see the difference between them all, much more noticeable in person. And I'm going to add a little music note to make the design a little more interesting. And yes, that concludes our mini lecture on cross-stitching with white cotton. By the way, I have just emailed out the newest update to this pattern for those of you stitching at home. If you want the free pattern, details are in the caption. Class dismissed. Day 32 of 100 days of cross stitch. If you're new here, I am cross stitching 100 different designs over 100 days, not consecutive days mind you, because that just feels like work and I won't have a chance of finishing. Today I'm just doing a simple chevron design, and while I stitch, I want you to try and see where I made a pretty significant mistake. I thought I would use some pastel colours. I don't use a lot of pastels in my everyday design, not really my go-to colour palette. It's nice to change things up a bit. This is actually a good example of how I come up with ideas for different cross-stitch designs. I will often see a colour combination I like, either as an illustration or some other artwork, and I use that palette to kind of guide what the cross-stitch design is going to be. I usually do this with my subscription box designs because I have to create 4 separate cross-stitch charts under the one theme using only 5 colours. I usually find it easier to start with the colours first because then I know what kind of designs will work and what won't. A lot of fiddling around, but we get there in the end. Okay, have you spotted the mistake yet? Yep, I left off an entire column on the left hand side. Clearly wasn't paying attention. I'll just go back and stitch those in now, and let's all agree to forget that ever happened. Day 33 of 100 days of cross stitch. Okay, we're doing a little experiment with today's design. Not sure how it will turn out, but let's go for it. First, I am stitching the background, and I have purposely picked very dark colours that kind of blend in together. I've done that for a reason that I will explain very shortly. Now, the object that I am stitching has curved edges. This is one of the major challenges in designing a cross stitch. It's making something look round because we are dealing with pixels which are very clunky and blocky, so it's extremely not easy to create round objects, especially when you only have 100 pixels to work with, like with these designs. So the background is just about done. Can you guess what it's going to be yet? So the key to making this actually look like something is to outline it, and I'm going to use this metallic gold thread in colour E3821, but I'm only going to use one strand because I want the outline to be a very fine gold line against the dark background. Don't know if it's going to stand out enough. If it doesn't, I can just go over the outline again with another line of thread, and here we are with the finished design. And yes, it's a little strawberry. I think I like it. I'll keep the single thread of gold. I think it's done the trick. Okay, bye. Day 34 of 100 days of cross stitch. Can I cross stitch Pikachu on a 10 by 10 square? That is the question. Okay, so one of you have suggested that I cross stitch a Pokemon like Pikachu as one of my squares. And honestly, my first reaction was there is absolutely no way I'm going to get that sort of detail in a 10 by 10 square. No way. But this challenge is all about experimenting, so we're going to give it a try. And I was so unconvinced that I even busted out the old-fashioned pen and paper before I even tried it out on my computer program. just to check that there was even a point to continuing on. And I think I was able to get it to work. It took a little fiddling around. The chart looked okay, but to be truly convinced, I need to stitch it up, of course. The cross stitch program I use is called Max Stitch, or PC Stitch if you have a PC, and I love it. Been using it for 10 years, and I'm sure I don't even use half the features on it, but it doesn't matter because it does everything I need it to. It is designed specifically for cross stitch, but you can also use it to design diamond art and probably crochet and maybe knitting patterns. Don't quote me on that because I've only ever used it for cross stitch. I seem to have picked my particular craft and I'm sticking with it to the bitter end. All other crafts be damned. Okay, it doesn't look like much now, but this is when it's the back stitch's time to shine. Everything comes together with a little back stitch, plus a couple of cheeky little French knots. If you want to know more about French knots, let me know in the comments and I'll make another video about that. And here we are, it actually worked. A minuscule cross-stitched Pikachu. Who'd have thought? Well, me, I knew it all along. Day 35 of 100 days of cross stitch. Can ChatGTP design a cross stitch? Time to find out. Today I'm asking AI to design a cross stitch chart in a 10x10 grid using 4 different colours. Yes, the first time I saw the grid pop up, it did make me slightly nervous that I'm making my entire job as a cross stitch designer redundant. But who doesn't have those existential thoughts of dread every now and then, right? I've even asked it to pick 4 random thread colours because we've already come this far, it might as well finish the job. And it was really hard to see what the design looks like as a number pattern, and it only really started to come clear once I started stitching. Now that we can see it more clearly, what do you think of the final design? I think it's fine. It's okay. Maybe next time we set the robots a bit more of a challenge and see if it can do better. Not overwhelmed with love for the design, but I'm not underwhelmed either. Can you ever just be whelmed? I think you can in Europe. Day 36 of 100 days of cross stitch. If you are new here, I'm Elise. I'm a full-time cross stitch designer and I'm designing 100 different designs over 100 different days. Each square is 10 by 10, which makes it 100 stitches per square. And if you know anything about cross stitch, you'll know that the smaller the space is, the harder it is to create a good design. So I've set myself quite a little brain-busting challenge. I own 2 online cross stitch stores, Spruce Craft Co and Sew It All Australia. Spruce sells modern cross stitch kits, subscription boxes and digital downloads, all based around my designs, and Sew It All sells really beautiful cross stitch fabrics and supplies. So when I tell you I've picked my niche hobby and I'm going all in on it, I'm not kidding around. I have one rule for this 100 days challenge and one rule only, and that is I'm not doing 100 designs in 100 days. That's to say the days don't have to be consecutive. And that is a very important distinction because honestly, the quickest way to make something feel like homework is to put a time frame on it. That rule has really been a godsend because I still enjoy making these videos, even if I haven't had time to make them as often as I want to. I have also made the charts for these designs free for you to download so you can stitch along too. You just have to sign up to our mailing list and you'll get access to the current update. All the details are in the caption, and then you'll get all future updates sent to you by email as they come out. Just released all the designs up until this one, which is day 36, and I'll release the next batch around day 40. Anywho, as I've been blabbering on, I've used this metallic red thread to stitch the ruby slipper from the Wizard of Oz, and she's even walking on a yellow brick road. Okay, I'll see you next time.
Day 36 of 100 days of cross stitch. Okay, so when I started this series, it was just for a little fun on Instagram, and I seem to have access to a much wider selection of music when I post on Reels. So this particular video originally had no voiceover and just a Taylor Swift song playing in the background, and you'll see why at the end. And then I thought, well, if I'm making these videos, I might as well upload them to TikTok because then I'm getting 2 uses out of them. And I swear, as a small business owner, sometimes I just feel like I'm a full-time content creator. But lucky that the thing I'm creating content on is also my hobby. Anyway, TikTok has a lot more stringent rules on music copyright, and maybe that's because I have a business account, I don't know. So this video didn't quite translate with the same effect without a Taylor Swift song playing in the background. But never mind, I think I just used another song, I can't remember. And then a few weeks ago, I got the idea that I should probably start working on my YouTube channel. So why not upload these videos as shorts while I do that? A third use for these videos. I have been meaning to do work on my channel for literal years, and as a side note, I've also uploaded my first floss tube video, and I also have a video about the roller coaster of my business journey, because I have been a cross stitch designer for 10 years now. So if you want to get a bit of behind the scenes action, go and check that out. But anyway, as you probably know, YouTube has even stricter copyright rules. So I think the moral of this story is from now on, I'm just going to do voiceovers for all my videos, so I don't have to worry about if any of these platforms are going to shut them down. It's original content from here on. Anyway, here is a teeny tiny cross stitch of the Lover album. See you next time.
Day 38 of 100 days of cross stitch. Okay, I've had a few questions about the metal clip that's holding onto my hoop, so I thought I'd show you the whole thing. It's called a Lowry stand, I think that's how you pronounce it, and these are all the places that you can adjust it. It's basically a metal stand that holds your hoop so you can stitch hands-free, or at least as hands-free as you can when you're doing cross stitch. It's designed to sit beside an armchair and reach across the armrest so that the hoop sits right in front of you. Very convenient. You can also get an extender bar which makes it a little bit longer, and you can adjust the height and rotation of the hoop. Never really used this stand until I started this series, and it has made filming these videos 1,000 times easier, so I'm glad I bought it a few years ago. The downside is they are fairly expensive, although that's kind of the norm living here in Australia. Expensive is all of our middle names. I do recommend them if that's something you think that would make your life a little bit easier. They are definitely worth the investment. And I know I'll be asked, I don't sell the Lowry stands in my Sold All Australia store, but you can find them online pretty easy. We do, however, sell the Nurge hoops, and that's what I'm using to hold the fabric. I've spoken about my love of these hoops many times before, but I really do love them. And while we've been chatting accessories, I have stitched a teeny tiny peeled banana. See you next time! Day 39 of 100 days of cross stitch. Today we're working with variegated thread. The top left hand corner square is how it turned out last time, but this time instead of stitching horizontally, we're going to stitch diagonally, and we'll see how it turns out. It's another experiment. Will it look good or will it look terrible? That's the joy of cross stitch. You won't really find out until you've invested hours of your time into creating it. When you think about it, cross stitch is the extreme sport of the craft world. I'll interject here with a handy little tip. When you pull your cotton out of their little paper wrappers, always pull from the end with the number. Always, always. It's the way they've been designed, and if you pull from the other end, there's a 99.9% chance the whole thing will end up in a great big tangled mess. And that statistic is not an exaggeration. Ask me how I know. Okay, starting to look pretty good. I chose the color palette because I've been starting to think about Christmas. I think I need to design some Christmas themed charts. So pop your ideas in the comments. Give me a challenge. I'm on my last couple of stitches and I've run out of thread, so I'm playing some thread chicken and seeing if I can make it one last final stitch so I don't have to rethread a whole new piece. And success! I made it! Those small victories in life that really keep you going, don't they? And here we go, all finished. What do you think? Do you prefer variegated thread the horizontal way or diagonally? Day 40 of 100 days of cross stitch. Today's design goes out to Kim, who is a regular contributor in our little cross stitch Facebook group. Kim has been stitching some of these designs and putting them into these adorable little bite-sized hoops. So cute. So I decided we need to fuel her addiction a little bit more and create another tiny object to add to her collection. Also, if you want to join our cross stitch group, you can. You just have to search this name here. And if you want a copy of all of the 40 days of cross stitch designs that we've done so far, go to the footer of my website where it says 100 days of cross stitch and you can download it for free. Okay, can you identify what I'm stitching yet? It is a teeny tiny jar of Nutella. See you next time.